just said?
I just said part of the reason that I do what I do is in the hope that people realise you don't have to be special, you don't have to be well known, you can just be a very ordinary housewife and just speak up and don't be afraid. People must realise that we can all make an effort and make a contribution, and it's actually not that hard. Once you've done it a couple of times, once you've gone in and asked a few questions and made the pharmacists think and make the doctors think, people must see that anyone can do it. They really can.
Your dreams are important to us as it bathes her face in gold. Come give us your natural gift. We make wealth from toil. Come pretend for history's page that we're advancing Australia fair. Let's pretend that we're all advancing Australia fair.
So here I am with Australia's most defiant grandmother, Rosemary Marshall, in person. Here you go.
It's really lovely to see you, Michael. We've spoken so many times, and now we've actually met in the flesh.
Yeah, and you're the same size as me, which is very good. I'm glad you're not 6'7".
Did you seriously think I was going to be one big, great Amazonian woman?
Oh, no, but usually when people meet me, the first thing they go is, oh, you're so small.
Well, I had no expectations, but it was as lovely as I thought you'd be, and it's such a warm person. It's lovely to meet you.
Yeah, cool. So we're here down in Tunks Park. We've got a group over there. Now, you've gone from, like most of us, from obscurity to now you're doing profound work. Your videos are going up from these interviews you're doing in the Forest of the Fallen. You've taken the Forest of the Fallen, almost keeping it alive, really, because it's starting, there's less and less of them being planted now. I don't know if you're aware of that.
I am aware of it. Part of the reason that we are able to persist with it is that it's actually very easy. I mean, we're planting it in the sand, but the people who are planting 700 sticks in a park, it's a very big undertaking. We've got it down to a fine art. I have a great crew of people who come along every week, and it's actually become something of well, it's hardly a social occasion because it's actually not. I mean, often we end up having a really unhappy time talking with people. So it's not pleasurable in the sense that we go along there to have a jolly, but it's very satisfying doing this work. And the reason I think all of us are so committed is that you can tell when the people talk with us that they are relieved to be able to explain what happened to them. It's a terrible thing for these vaccine-injured people, and I'm not exaggerating. We meet at least 10 every weekend. Not all of them will be interviewed. Some of them feel embarrassed about it. Some of them have partners who say, oh, I don't want you on camera. And some of them say, I'm still working at the place where I was mandated and I don't want to say anything.
Even though they've been injured?
Even though they've been injured. And I am yet to meet someone who's had success with the TGA. Mostly they say, oh no, I haven't bothered. Even the young man who I do refer to a lot because it was such a startling interview with him. He was 30 and he was the one who lost his eyesight on the way back from the pharmacy. And when he went to hospital, the hospital people said, oh, couldn't be the injection you took 20 minutes ago, which to me is if it wasn't so dreadful, it would be comical. It's something out of Monty Python. Oh yes, you just had an injection of some poison and you think that might have caused you to go blind 20 minutes ago. It is almost comical. But I said to him, aren't you angry? And he said, no, I'm not angry. And here he is.
Did he say why he's not angry? Because you would expect him to be a tad angry.
Well, I wonder if he'd been more angry at the time. But he took at face value the fact that they said, oh, no, it can't have been that. And I
just met Connor in person, and I haven't seen Connor angry, even though he just told me he's had a bad time. Yeah, he one week he's good, the next he's trying to do an apprenticeship, and the next minute, and he thinks I'm over it, and then the next week it's back, and he goes for tests like cardiologist tests, and they say you're fine, there's nothing wrong.
It's quite remarkable, isn't it? And that's why so many people don't believe the injured, and that's why it took Brittany 200. I've lost track of how much it cost her and her family, but it was 2 years having had a cardiac arrest in the gutter outside the hospital. it was 2 years before anyone would consider
Is
it.
this the one in Perth?
No, that's Riley. Riley.
'Cause I interviewed a Brittany in Perth. She had a heart attack in
I
hospital
know,
at 21.
no, it wasn't that one, no. But her story was shocking. But, every story is shocking. And Riley Patterson, I've had a lot to do with him. I've had a couple of conversations with him. He took Novavax, and he had the most shocking psychological problems. He couldn't sleep for four months. And by the end of it, he was having psychosis. He said he was so lost. And yet people say, oh, well, they couldn't find anything wrong with him, so there was nothing wrong with him. I mean, it's just such a...
Let's turn it on its head. Instead of trying to understand why doctors won't admit to things that's clearly in front of their face, it's like the story of the Emperor's clothes. We're trying to understand why the people can't see that he's naked, the Emperor's naked. But why do you think it is that we can see, and why are certain people who can see, like yourself, why don't you just give in and shut up?
Well, I'm someone who doesn't deal very well with injustice. And when I see some, especially young people, I mean, I've got nieces, nephews, sons, grandchildren, and to think that this is going to happen to another generation of people. I see young parents struggling with their children. And just at the beach the other day, I met a young woman who had the most gorgeous baby girl. And I said to her, I always have a chat with young mothers. I think it's a grandmother thing. I adore my grandchildren, and I just do find I love having a chat with young mothers about their children. Anyway, she was clearly absolutely besotted with this beautiful baby girl. It was really lovely. And I started talking about, what had happened in my family with a vaccine injury. To a little one, and she was really upset to hear it. And I said, I hope you'll think twice about having this beautiful child vaccinated. The child was 5 months old, and I was thinking, please don't do the 6-month ones. And she said, I have to get her done because she goes to daycare and I've got no choice. And I think this is where the cost of living thing comes in. I mean, the young families...
Or a value system. What do you value more? I mean, in reality, she could leave the city, go into the country...
Yeah.
There are, depending on what you value more, do you think in the future your child just wants a house, or do you think your child wants you as a young mum?
Well, there is truth in that as well. I do find it hard to understand how anyone, with what's coming out now, and there is absolutely no question that people are definitely becoming aware. COVID, for all the dreadful things it's brought to us, and we all know the tragedies that has brought on us.
Just going back to what you said, though, I mean, she's literally admitted she knows there's a danger that the vaccines can injure a child, and yet she will still do it because she wants material wealth.
Well, I don't know what her full circumstances were, whether she was a single mother. A lot of single mothers have had such a dilemma over this. I met a nurse who was a single mother of 3 children. She said she had to take the injections because she had a family to look after. She was the nurse who told me that she was working in one of the hospitals on the northern beaches, and she said that there were so many stillborn babies in that hospital. I mean, every time we speak with these people, like the nurse I spoke to the other day, Dan, who explained what was really going on in hospitals. And he said that probably about 30% of the doctors are fully aware of the dangers that are being delivered to people with these injections, but they're not speaking up. And that is because there still is the risk of losing their livelihood, which is what we're still seeing with Miley Trin, and witnessed by so many. That doctor in America, Kirk Moore, is the first one to have had success. Well, no, Billy Bay did too, but it is still a terrible thing to try and take on the whole hospital system, and for Dan to have admitted to me that if anyone had questioned whether something might have been a vaccine injury, that a memo would go around the hospital saying no one is. This is a scurrilous slur on vaccines, and no one's to discuss this, and there will be repercussions if it is discussed. Yeah. I fully believe that is what's still happening. But what I am bewildered by, Michael, is why people aren't more angry. And I think it is coming. I think there's been such a resistance to imagining that the government has been prepared to allow this to happen to us. Unless you were someone who actually doubted the government prior to 2020, I think you were very much at risk, much more risk of succumbing to this. And it wasn't a matter of intelligence. I think it was a matter of what you'd experienced. If you had had a situation where you'd seen the media lying, or you had had a run-in with some government department and thought, well, that looks like it's corrupt. I think the people who were able to look at it more squarely were people with the experience of doubting what the foundations of our society were built on.
Do you think, though, like the governments are corrupt? We all know that. We've known that since we were young. And these governments were more corrupt than ever. And for some reason we're risen up against it, like these people behind us. But so many other people haven't. But do you wonder if they haven't because they're corrupt too? And I tell you, I was in the trams. I was helping a union group take on this really corrupt union officials. And several of the drivers said to me, yeah, we know they're corrupt. We just want them to be corrupt in our favour. And that's what I one of the things I think the truths, why don't they accept a truth? But I think our truths is to say, well, why don't we accept certain truths? And there's certain people who literally do not give a shit if something's true or false. They just want to know, which one do I go with will get me more.
Well, the other problem is that 50% of the population are employed by the government, so they're absolutely not going to question. If their bread and butter is coming from the government, they're going to say, oh, wow,
Don't ride the horse there.
No. But I think we might be coming to the tipping point now where even those who have succumbed to the lies, and many of them now are getting sick, we are seeing a huge uptick in so many. I mean, every encounter I have, it seems that I had my eyes tested not long ago, and the ophthalmologist said, oh, I've seen so many detached retinas, and of course we ended up on that subject. Every time we go out, I had a funny thing with the dentist the other day too. I went to the dentist because I'm going on the Vax bus and we're going to be doing a big trip across Australia, I hope. And I thought, oh, well, I'll just do my 6-month checkup. He was waving around that fluoride. I said, no, I need the brain cells I've got. I can't afford to lose any more. Anyway, he kept asking me why I was going and what I was doing. You know, he knew that I hadn't taken any injections. I'd told him that some time ago. So he was, obviously had labelled me as an evil anti-vaxxer, but he was always very civil to me. And he's a very good dentist. I've got great admiration for him. Anyway, the assistant there was, I think she might have been Brazilian, gorgeous little thing. Very interesting. I told him that I was on the Vax bus, and it always elicits the whole thing for me that, I told him a bit more about the family and why I do what I do. And I told him a few home truths about Hep B vaccinations and what, the blood-brain barrier of babies, which made the colour drain from his face because I know he's injected his 3 children. Anyway, he was just trying to dismiss me. And this little assistant of his turned to him and she said, Stephen, listen, she's telling you the truth.
Wow, isn't that amazing? But like I said, a lot of people don't want the truth. That very famous play, Jack Nicholson is A Few Good Men, he says at the end, you can't handle the truth. And this is what I'm seeing. I mean, Yuval Harari even said, people don't react to facts, they react to stories.
That's very true. That is definitely, you can throw all the data you like. And
we had 5 years now, truth.
And now it's really getting to the pointy end. We are seeing the result of these things, and yet still the denial is strong. It is really quite fascinating to witness it.
And then you've got to ask yourself, okay, what's in there? Why should they deny? What do they get from it? Every action is selfish.
It's fear. I truly think the people who lash out the most...
Then what are they frightened of? Is it COVID, or is it the government backlashing against them?
No, they're frightened that they've injured themselves. And the more vociferous people are, and the more they throw bile on me, the more convinced I am that that's their problem. They are absolutely scared rigid. And I've actually heard that from people. A couple of people who I'm close to who've taken these have just said, we know what you're doing, and we agree with what you're doing, but don't talk about it with us because I can't bear to hear.
Well, let me tell you, we got a freedom fighter in a country town asked us to come around to his house for dinner. Mm-hmm. And his wife, unvaccinated on our side, was seriously agitated. And then she brought up the story of Zoe, the pregnant woman, getting arrested in a house, and the police filmed it. This happened early on in Dan Andrews' time. It said it gave her goosebumps just talking about it.
Really?
So she was terrified of us being there simply because by having us prominent anti-vaxxers there, she felt that she was being put on a list. So she wasn't scared of COVID, she was scared of the government doing to Zoe,
Government?
doing it to her.
Oh.
This is what I'm seeing by actually looking and seeing that you're not scared of government retribution, but a lot of people are.
Well, what can I say to that? No, I'm not. I'm just not. I don't know whether I'm being very foolish, but I don't actually care that much,
And I
Michael.
don't think most of the people in Tunks probably care either.
No.
But maybe that's, I'm only theorising,
Yeah, it's an
maybe
interesting
that's the
point.
border between us and them.
Well, if they want to arrest a 70-year-old grandmother in a pink and grey coat and tell everyone that I've got some evil intention, well, let's see how that goes. I mean, really? And everything I do, I don't go in threatening anyone. I go and ask questions. I'll go into a pharmacy and say, do you know about this? Would you like to watch witness statement? Do you realise what's in the injections? Do you realise how many people? And they never have an answer. No, and they just stonewall. Or if they do have an answer, they'll say something absolutely fatuously ridiculous, like, "Oh, an 89-year-old woman can have her 7th COVID injection mixed with a flu injection, and she'll be absolutely. She might feel a little bit sick the next day, as if she's not dead." But I mean, to give out advice like that, I just think exposing that kind of recklessness is probably in the public's interest. And if we all have to go to court and discuss that, well, I'm perfectly happy to do that. Perfectly happy to. In fact, one pharmacy said, "Oh, the police are next door getting their lunch, trying to make me feel scared." This is a pharmacy I've visited a few times. And I said, "Well, let's invite them in and see how they like being mandated, shall we?"
Well, the other interesting thing now is we've signed up to the WHO, and there's been a huge battle within our community to try stop that, which has completely failed,
Just ignored.
But I'm wondering if it's actually a good thing, because once they turn up at your street and they decide we're going to mandatorily vaccinate you, and they're going down the street, entering people's houses, I'm wondering if then people go, "Hey, what?" And then they might rise up.
Well, I think we're now at the point where it's got to be numbers. It's very frustrating that people aren't more angry, but I think it is coming, Michael. And I think that something like that, we simply can't comply. People are running headlong. Now they're saying, "Oh, well, let's reduce the voting age to 16. Are they going to let them on the internet at that point? I mean, everything's upside down and crazy. They're stopping them from going on the internet. But you'll be all right to vote. I mean, you're not allowed
Just
to
can't watch YouTube.
The whole thing is just ludicrous to the point now where... And that woman who stood up, Trish Cook her name was, that MP that stood up in Parliament the other day, and she said, "I've had 40 years injecting everyone, I'm absolutely marvellous." Well, I'd like to point out to her that 15% of 6-year-old boys now are on NDIS, so what an achievement that was. These people are... But is anyone else as angry as me?
Well, that's an actual... I've brought this up a few times. So we've got all these boys who are autistic, girls as well, but lots of young men. And instead of trying to figure out what's causing it and vigorously trying to stop it, we've built an industry where people are now getting good money for looking after these. So we're almost incentivising ourselves to keep producing autistic boys so we can prop up this industry.
The autism industry, apparently it's even discussed as that, because of course they're all on endless drugs to sedate them. And when you think of the ramifications of injecting 12 different diseases into an 18-month-old, it's such good news, isn't it? Rather than having the extra trip to the pharmacy or the doctor, they're going to jam all this into your 18-month-old baby, rather than waiting till they're 3 and breaking it up a bit. Oh, no. 3 in each limb, they suggest, is a good idea. I don't know whether they've realised the blood flows everywhere. I mean, you can jam it into 3 in each leg and 3 in each arm and think, "Oh, well, that's diffused it," but it all goes straight through to the brain. The children's blood-brain barrier isn't fully formed until they're 12. I mean, it's quite remarkable that any children seem relatively normal.
Well, the other interesting thing, I mean, we're here, I don't know where this is, Tunks, Northbridge. It's a beautiful view, and yet... basically, how they've got us thinking now is a baby comes to this society here, and our society is so dangerous and toxic that the baby has been sent to us unfinished. The only way it can survive is if Big Pharma fills its veins full of shit.
Yeah, start with the vitamin K. Has anyone noticed how many babies are getting jaundice these days? Jaundice when my children were born 44 years ago. I don't know anyone whose baby had jaundice, but once they started doing all this vitamin K nonsense, all these children are under those lights and compromised, and then, you know, they're poor little things. The minute they're out in the big wide world, you'd think you'd want to be gentle, but no, they get that Hep B rammed in them in case they have sex or drugs in the next 24 hours, of course, newborns. There's no logic. So until we actually start fighting back, and it will be numbers.
So we need to be in recruitment.
Well, I think the Vax bus is going to have a very interesting experience this time. I do think it will be a test of how much people have woken up. I'm quite sure that we'll have a lot of COVID, people who've suffered from COVID injections. I'm absolutely sure there'll be a lot of those. But I'm hoping there'll be families who'll come and talk with us who will explain why they avoided giving their children their vaccinations, what woke them up, because I think that's a very important thing to understand, why people have become aware that this hasn't been such a good idea. And it would appear just by observation that a lot of parents still are completely ignorant.
Well, just to finish then, what do you get out of this activist work personally for you? Because this is to see if somebody wanted to join you, they're thinking, okay, I've got to get up, I've got to deal with all this frustration, like no one's listening, I want people to get angry, they're not getting angry. So what are the positives? What's actually something you get out of it that makes it worth it?
Well, I couldn't live with myself if I know what I know and I've met the people I've met and I don't say anything. You know, so many of these people, I've cried with them, and they've said thank you for telling people what's happened to me, and many of them have said, please don't forget me, Rosie. Well, I can't.
So it's like a sense of purpose?
Well,
I don't mean that in a bad way.
No, I can't look away, Michael. It hasn't taken over my life. Well, some people accuse me of becoming completely absorbed in it. No, I've got plenty of time for other things, but it certainly is something I can't look away from. Every time I see small children, it really brings it back to me. It's for them that we have to keep speaking out on every level. We have to sort out the corruption in the government. We have to sort out these medical issues that we're seeing. We can't let this continue. And if I didn't have this outlet of the Forest of the Fallen, I don't know how I would have coped with the helplessness I would have felt. So I don't know how much of a difference I'm making. But while I can, and until they bring in a digital ID, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. And after the digital ID comes in, I don't care if I never get on the internet again, and if I can sink into complete obscurity. But I'll still do the forest every week, just so that people can come and talk and have an outlet for what's happened to them. And as far as any publicity or any wider knowing about me is concerned, I'm perfectly happy to let that go.
That we're all advancing on straight affair. Back down the road I found the church we built on the black man's bones was empty, and out the front a sign read all but sold. A sign read all but sold. And we all owe so much money, but to whom we're not quite sure. So head down, we just keep running along our fading golden shores. So head down, we just keep running.